Introducing a completely redesigned experience that you can sense. And that senses you. The new Dell Latitude laptops bring your work closer to you.
Tonight, a tragic freak accident in the Parklands. A young woman killed by a falling tree.
Young criminals smashed their way into shops across the suburbs in a night of looting that has traders cleaning up and demanding action.
90 years old, collecting for charity in memory of his wife. How this Aldinga man won't let a cruel theft slow him down.
King Charles' brave face following his cancer diagnosis as Prince Harry jets in to see his sick father.
And circling sharks create an SAC spectacle. We ask the experts why we're seeing so many.
This is Adelaide's 9 News with Brenton, Ragless and Kate Collins.
Good evening. We begin with a tragic story unfolding in the North Adelaide Parklands tonight, where a freak accident has claimed a young woman's life.
She was sitting in the shade of a gum tree on our sunny afternoon when a large branch snapped.
A towering gum and underneath a sobering scene. A screen marking the place a young woman was sitting enjoying the shade when a large branch snapped.
We got here within just a few minutes and knowing that there was someone trapped underneath it, we knew we were going to have to swing into some life support and first aid, but unfortunately there was nothing we could do.
It all happened about 2:30 this afternoon alongside the university sports fields on War Memorial Drive at North Adelaide and opposite a childcare centre.
We just had to rush all the children inside because we were told that something had happened outside.
The woman, believed to be in her 20s, simply doing what anyone might do in the Parklands on a sunny day.
It appears at this stage she was just doing nothing more than sitting on the lawn, just having something to drink.
The City Council regularly inspects the gum trees for their health and safety. It's understood this tree was inspected not long ago.
I think it's just a shock because we all come around here and sit around. Even we bring the kids over here all the time.
It's just really, really sad and shocking thing that's just happened. It's one of those things.
Now, work has been underway here to help remove other branches to make the area safe for emergency crews working below. The MFS was needed to help lift the heavy tree branch to free the woman from underneath. The road here has just reopened moments ago. Police will now begin their investigation tonight, and Adelaide City Council has also confirmed it will launch an official investigation into exactly how this happened. Kate.
Beth, thank you. Close to a dozen small businesses have been hit by careless thieves who smashed their way across 3 shopping centres in the early hours of this morning.
Their target was cash, leaving already struggling store owners out of pocket and with a costly clean-up.
A masked man on a mission trying to kick his way into a Greenwith bakery. Unsuccessful, his friend gives it a go, hurling a dog bowl and chair before scurrying through the scattered mess.
They really struggled to smash it, so they stood the chairs and then they got in, jumped counter, done.
Once over, the thief swipes the till, his partner carelessly tossing a coffee cup as the pair pull the till free.
Massive shock, never seen anything like it, always felt so safe here.
The group breaking into 3 other stores at the Highland Village shopping centre, all calculated and careless smash and grabs. And almost identical to others carried out at small businesses across Adelaide, gangs hitting shopping centres in Torrensville, Para Hills and Greenwith, all in just over an hour.
It's hard for the business owners, it's a struggle for everybody at the moment, but yeah, this is disgraceful.
It started at Brickworks Marketplace. Thieves in similar clothing to those at Greenwith caught on camera rummaging through a pizza shop. Till in hand, they helped themselves to a drink. One of 4 shops there, this morning facing a clean-up.
If I can't trade, then I'll lose like $1,000 or $2,000 today, and this big impact if this is not safe.
Costly too for store owners in Para Hills.
I'm pretty angry because, we work so hard, and in this day and age everything's it's hard to make ends meet.
Police are tonight still investigating if they are all linked.
I would say that South Australia remains one of the safest places in the world, and what we're committed to doing is keeping it that way.
We gave police the chance to speak today on camera to reassure the community, but they refused. Tonight, they're still hunting those responsible. Brenton?
Thank you, Kelly. A 90-year-old Aldinga man has been hit by heartless thieves. They broke into his car as he went for a walk. The stolen loot, proceeds of the charity he founded in honour of his late wife.
Married for almost 61 years, when Judith Rowe died in 2017, Dean lost the love of his life.
We celebrated her 82nd birthday, and 14 days after that, she lost her battle, unfortunately.
7 decades after the pair met on a blind date, Dean dedicated his life to her in a different way, creating Judith's legacy, raising money and awareness for ovarian cancer.
I don't hide it. I'll talk about Judith's story at any time, how we've been and what she went through with those chemo.
But on Sunday morning, the 90-year-old suffered another loss. Returning from a walk along the Aldinga Esplanade, he found his car had been broken into, money raised for his charity and fundraising items stolen, as well as his credit cards, the thieves running up hundreds of dollars in extra charges within the hours.
Oh, a bit of a hell of a shock when, bit of panic stations. Oh, where's my card?
Dean sad that someone could be so callous. The stolen items were in bags branded with Judith's legacy, but a man who's been unstoppable in already raising $100,000 is trying to take the crime in his stride.
They've been taken and then you've got to replace it all, which is a hard bit. It's not easy.
Dean hasn't let this stop his good work though. Later this month he'll host the 7th annual Judith's Walk on what would have been her 89th birthday.
With losing Judith, I guess we've lost, that was a great loss to a lot, not just me, to a lot of people. But it's come in positive of what I'm doing now, all in her memory.
Shannon McDonald, 9 News.
King Charles has been seen for the first time since his cancer diagnosis was made public.
The appearance came shortly after Prince Harry arrived in London to be reunited with his father, flying in from California.
Not slowing down. Britain's most prominent cancer patient leaves his home at Clarence House with a smile and a wave for crowds outside, as the King and Queen made the short drive to Buckingham Palace, greeted by well-wishers.
Hopefully they'll be able to treat it and he'll be well and back on form again.
As he undergoes treatment as an outpatient, Charles' contact with others has been restricted. One major exception, his son, Harry. The Duke of Sussex flew to London overnight from California, going straight from the airport to Clarence House. It was father and son's first meeting since the coronation and lasted under an hour.
King Charles is by nature, he wants to heal not only the world, but I think his impulse would be to try and heal the family.
From Buckingham Palace, Charles and Camilla were whisked away by air to their Sandringham estate. That's where Charles was last seen in public at the weekend. He knew then what the world didn't know, that he'd been diagnosed with cancer. As he'll be recuperating there for the foreseeable future, other royals have started stepping in for him.
Your Royal Highness, how is the King?
Princess Anne visiting a community centre after handing out honours at Windsor Castle.
The palace says it won't be providing running commentary on how the King's therapy is going, and so updates may be far and few between. But someone who's had an insight is the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who says the cancer was caught early.
I'm, of course, in regular contact with him. All our thoughts are with him and his family. And thankfully, this has been caught early, and now everyone will be wishing that he gets the treatment that he needs.
At the least, the King's positive public face seems to be just what the doctor ordered. In London, Brett McLeod, 9 News.
Straight to Nine's Europe correspondent Edward Godfrey, who's at Buckingham Palace. Edward, will Prince Harry see his brother William while he's in London?
Well, Kate, sources close to Prince William say he has absolutely no plans to meet with his brother Harry while he is here visiting in London. Others here are suggesting that perhaps a family friend could intervene and broker something to get the two together, but there is nothing on the table at this stage. Prince William will resume royal duties today. He's had a few weeks off caring for his wife Kate with her abdominal surgery and caring for the kids. He has an event at Windsor Castle this afternoon our time, and then tonight he'll be here in the city in London at a charity gala event where he is scheduled to give a speech. And perhaps, Brenton, he will say something publicly for the first time since his cancer diagnosis was revealed.
Thank you, Edward. Bad news for holidaymakers. A day after the state government announced Emirates is returning, another international carrier has pulled the pin on South Australia. Operational costs forcing Batik Air Malaysia to suspend flights to and from Kuala Lumpur. The last passengers touching down today.
Batik Air Malaysia leaving for Kuala Lumpur this morning. When it'll be back is up in the air. Adelaide Airport confirming the airline will no longer fly, suspending its services due to operational costs. Keen travellers like Matthew Conahan just want options available to holiday abroad.
Yeah, it is annoying, but we're in a small city, I guess.
Batik Air Indonesia also scaling back flights to Bali from 4 to 2 a week, but insists it's common for this time of year, despite 200,000 South Australians travelling to Indonesia last year, Adelaide Airport's largest international market.
If I have to take another international route, I'll take another route.
The Batik Air Malaysia service only started last July and comes just a day after Emirates announced its return to Adelaide, the wind taken from the sails of international travel's triumphant return to South Australian skies.
I was surprised to see as many people coming to Adelaide when I was at Kuala Lumpur. I thought the flight would be nearly empty, but it was pretty packed.
The government remains in negotiations with Qantas, Cathay Pacific and China Southern to secure more international carriers and direct overseas routes.
Cathay Pacific wants to come back to Adelaide on a frequent basis. They were an important airline before, they are now. The trouble that Cathay Pacific have got is particularly around recruitment of pilots.
Batik Airlines has been approached for comment. Will DeFulvio, 9 News.
The MFS had to bring in special equipment to rescue a tradie who fell from scaffolding at a Lightsview home. The fall left him stranded on a roof in Tama Road at around 7:20 last night. After the delicate retrieval, he was handed over to paramedics who took him to hospital.
A Glenelg charity has lost almost everything in a heartless arson attack. Its food storage area was destroyed. Donations that were destined for hundreds of our homeless in the local community.
Ash, debris and empty shelves. The remnants of a room which once held badly needed donations of food.
Everything's gone. It's just destroyed. It's in ashes.
The fire breaking out in Glenelg's Murphy House around 4:30 this morning. The High Street building, the storage space for St Vincent de Paul, which supports hundreds of homeless in the surrounding community.
We like to take out a survival kind of pack, and we won't be able to do that for some time.
A children's playgroup area and sewing room used to make clothes for those in need, also rendered useless by what's believed to be an act of arson.
It's just disgusting because there's a lot of hard work goes in and people doing it for nothing.
The charity doesn't know why it would have been targeted, especially as there's been such a high demand for its services in recent months.
It just doesn't make sense because we really are we try to be very kind and understanding to anybody who comes to see us.
Firefighters managed to stop the blaze spreading to the neighbouring church, but it took 2 hours to fully extinguish.
It's so sad to, that this beautiful building behind, which is, heritage, has now been destroyed.
Samantha Hogan, 9 News.
The government's again been accused of shifting the goalposts to meet its election commitment to fix ramping. Today, planting thousands of silhouettes in Botanic Park to highlight improvements in ambulance response times. But the Premier says it's no political stunt, instead showing off a better health system.
This the backdrop of a government press conference at Botanic Park. 2,277 silhouettes, representing how many more South Australians received an on-time ambulance last month compared to 2 years ago.
These aren't fictitious people. These are real people calling 000 who required an ambulance in an emergency response time that were seen on time.
The Premier says it's no political stunt, just showing the inroads the government's making.
We've halved the number of ambulances rolling up late. Halved them.
In January, 71% of Priority 1 patients were seen on time and 65% of Priority 2 cases. But the opposition's accused the government again of shifting the goalposts to meet its election promise.
The government and Peter Malinauskas are putting huge emphasis on ambulance response times and what they're doing to fix that. That wasn't what they took to the last election.
While there's been long-term improvement, the boss of the ambulance service says our paramedics are now dealing with bigger workloads and more 000 call-outs.
We have seen some increases in workload over time that have presented another challenge.
And with the Royal Adelaide Hospital experiencing its worst month for ramping in January, it remains a big issue for the government.
Perhaps focus more on their promise to fix ramping in South Australia and a little less on organising arts and crafts for a media stunt.
Ollie Haig, 9 News.
A Northern Suburbs man who admitted drunkenly assaulting a police officer and enforcing COVID rules has narrowly avoided jail. Matthew Priest clashed with security in 2021 when he and his co-accused were booted from a pub on Rundle Street for breaching COVID restrictions. When confronted by police, the 35-year-old attacked an officer, then sprinted from the scene. Priest was handed a 3-month suspended sentence, his behaviour slammed by the judge as appalling.
A man's been airlifted to Adelaide with life-threatening injuries from a tractor accident at Swan Reach. It happened while the man in his 60s was working in a vineyard on the Stott Highway just before 7:30 last night. SafeWork SA is investigating alongside police.
A fire has destroyed a $2 million wind turbine at Red Hill, north of Snowtown. The turbine head began smouldering early this morning. CFS volunteers called in as sparks began to fly out, igniting a grass fire. Firefighters are still monitoring as the turbine fire burns itself out, creating an exclusion zone in case it collapses.
Millions of Australians will soon be able to swap time on their phones for time with their family. The Albanese government securing support for sweeping industrial relations changes that require bosses to consider what is reasonable contact.
Sometimes escaping the work phone can be tricky.
We'll call you back.
But tonight, for millions of Australians, it's about to get easier.
What we're simply saying is that someone who's not being paid 24 hours a day shouldn't be penalised if they're not online and available 24 hours a day.
The government and Greens combining with David Pocock and Lydia Thorpe enough to pass the changes to be implemented by Christmas.
We need to be protecting people's private time and mental health, but how we do that is critical.
Exceptions will be made for emergencies, notifying of shift changes, if the employee is paid an on-call rate or if the employee is paid to do the work.
How often you are contacted, how you are contacted, the nature of your job description, whether you're being paid or not, and the nature of your family responsibilities.
Additional cost, additional complexity and complete, total and utter confusion.
Many companies and businesses have exactly these systems in place now.
But business groups warn the consequences may impact costs.
The idea that you can regulate for common sense through legislation like this is fundamentally flawed.
I think there's this thing called common sense, and I think employers and employees use that pretty well.
Workers will be encouraged to talk to their employers first before taking the case to the Fair Work Commission, which would give warnings before a fine. The changes are part of sweeping industrial relation laws set to pass the Parliament. They will give more rights to casual and gig workers and give the government another win to start the year. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
Sport later with Tom Rehn and Rennie. We've heard from Rory Sloane.
We have, and despite that career-threatening eye surgery, the veteran, he's planning to play on this season. Good evening tonight. We'll hear from Rory Sloane on when he's set to return, and when he does, he's set to join Premiership magpie Mason Cox with this unique look. And from power bad boy to club leader, Sam Powell-Pepper opens up on his proud moment.
Thanks, Tom. We'll see you soon. A sea of salmon catches the eye of much larger creatures of the deep.
Next, the incredible pictures from Kangaroo Island. Multiple sharks seen swimming through a school of fish captured by a local photographer.
And election campaign corflutes now officially a thing of the past in South Australia. A drone photographer has captured incredible vision of around 10 sharks swimming off the South Australian coastline. He's told 9 News he couldn't believe what he was seeing as he flew above the beach.
A shark swims through a school of salmon at dusk just last night as another two emerge nearby. This vision taken on the southern side of Kangaroo Island.
I've sent the drone up and I was just going across the water and I found two sharks. So I moved a little bit higher up in the sky to see what else I could find, and then we were counting and say maybe 6, 7, and then the higher I went, I think we counted 10.
Pennington Bay is a remote stretch of coastline on the opposite side of the island to Kingscote and Penneshaw.
People do go to Pennington Bay to swim and people go there to surf. There's pretty good ways for surfing. At that time, there wasn't anybody in the water.
Grant Courts has lived on Kangaroo Island for 4 years and says he's seen more sharks than ever recently.
The whole time I've been here, I haven't seen too many sharks, but over the past couple of weeks, it seems that almost every time I put the drone up in the sky.
Researcher Andrew Fox believes these sharks are bronze whalers and has been investigating the higher number of sightings along our coast in recent months.
This summer there's a big cold water upwelling of nutrient-rich cold water. The whole ecosystem has changed. We're seeing dolphins and even blue whales with tuna schools coming inshore, and there's a lot of life, a lot of bronze whaler sharks eating salmon. Even white sharks are increased in number at the moment inshore.
Emma Henderson, 9 News.
Police have revealed 1 in 5 people involved in deadly crashes in SA last year tested positive to drugs. Nearly 5,500 drivers also tested positive at police road stops. Today, they had a film crew in the streets of Collinswood preparing a new television ad campaign to highlight the dangers of drug driving.
Today, as the ongoing part of that advertisement is a controlled collision between 3 cars where the person is driving on cannabis.
The ad is funded by an $11 million state government road safety fund.
Australians are being ripped off by banks, energy companies, airlines and supermarkets. They're the findings of a report by former ACCC boss Alan Fells. He says better protections need to be in place to stop the near-constant exploitation.
Walking into Canberra after months of investigation, Alan Fells says corporate giants are out of control.
Australians are paying prices that are too high, too often.
And he says the consumer watchdog needs to be more vicious.
The cause is weak and ineffective competition in too many sectors.
Handing down a report on price gouging, the former ACCC boss made 36 recommendations to the government, including new laws to name and shame corporate price gougers and powers to break up big companies when needed.
The Australian government needs to act on high prices.
The report finds dodgy corporate practices are everywhere. There's drip pricing, where the advertised price differs from the final amount at checkout, a big problem in online retail, medical procedures and airline tickets. Excuseflation, using global trends like inflation to camouflage unrelated price hikes, seen across almost all corporates. And loyalty taxes, where cheap introductory prices are quickly and quietly replaced by higher costs, found across energy, insurance and banks.
This is unfair. The public needs an explanation. Please explain.
The fact is, prices are still rising fast. In the last 2.5 years, Australians are paying well over 20% more for fuel, travel, gas and power, insurance and food, and very few are exactly sure where inflation ends and corporate profiteering begins. But tonight, a plea to strive for a better understanding.
There's nothing more on the minds of Australians than the cost of living and the impact of prices on them.
Chris Kohler, 9 News.
The federal government has failed to fulfil its commitments to closing the gap for disadvantaged Indigenous Australians, according to a scathing review by the Productivity Commission. Tonight, there are warnings the national agreement is headed for failure if urgent change isn't made.
It was meant to be a turning point.
This is a very significant day.
But there's been little change 4 years on from the national agreement on closing the gap.
That's just a dirty word in our community. It means nothing.
Well, we are closing no gaps. That's the reality of the situation.
A scathing review by the Productivity Commission labelling the agreement weak.
Governments have themselves not fulfilled the obligations, the commitments that they signed up to under this agreement.
Tonight, only 4 of 19 targets are on track, some even going backwards. The Commission now releasing recommendations to turn that around. Top priority, governments must share decision-making powers with Indigenous communities.
All governments need to do better. The report today is a reminder of that.
Bridging the gap, an ambition that's remained elusive over decades for leaders of all political stripes. After the failure of the Voice referendum, pressure is rising on the Prime Minister to reveal what practical steps can be taken to lessen Indigenous inequality. The government will detail its latest plan next week.
We can't just keep doing the same thing. That's crazy.
The action needs to happen now.
Claudia Vradoljak, 9 News.
Political party election corflutes on SA roads, trees and infrastructure is one step closer to being outlawed. Legislation to ban the posters passing the lower house today, with the state government supporting the bill. It will now go to the upper house and is almost certain to pass. Election posters will still be allowed on private property.
We're checking the weather now, and the sunshine-filled days just keep on coming.
Jessica Braithwaite, still no sign of dark clouds on the forecast.
No, not a cloud in sight here at Thornton Park this afternoon, and certainly no rain clouds on the forecast, that is for sure. Today we came in at around 26 degrees in the city. It's still really pleasant and sunny. It's around 23 degrees right now. Over the next 7 days, the forecast is gradually warming up, making for quite the run of dry, sunny weather in Adelaide, and I'll have all those details coming up for you very soon.
Terrific. Thank you, Jessica. A mother convicted over her son's murderous rampage.
In the news ahead, a woman in the United States told by a jury she could have prevented her child's mass shooting. Those details next.
And Donald Trump's bid to avoid criminal convictions backfires.
For the first time in America's history, a parent has been held responsible for their child's deadly mass shooting. Michigan mother Jennifer Crumbley was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, a jury finding she could have prevented her 15-year-old son from killing 4 school students.
There was almost no emotion. Jennifer Crumbley, statue still, scrunching her eyes as a jury read her fate.
We find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter.
The Michigan mother becoming America's first parent to be held responsible for their child's shooting.
She negligently did not take steps to take care and protect the other children in that school.
Ethan Crumbley was 15 years old when he packed a pistol, gifted to him by his parents, and went to school. His teachers found violent drawings and caught him searching online for bullets, but when school officials called the Crumbley parents to alert them, neither would pick up their son. Hours later, Ethan shot dead 4 high school students.
If you could change what happened, would you? Oh, absolutely. I wish he would have killed us instead.
The killer teenager has already been sentenced to life with no parole. This trial focused on the fact the shooting could have been prevented. A jury finding Jennifer Crumbley acted with gross negligence in both giving her gun to her son and failing to stop him from carrying out shooting mass murder.
The thing that really hammered it home is that she was the last adult with the gun.
It was a long time coming, but it's definitely a step toward accountability, and you cannot choose to not take care of your child. You cannot choose to not nurture your child.
Ethan Crumbley's father faces the same charges. He's awaiting trial, where there's now precedent for a parent to be criminally liable. In the United States, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
32 of more than 130 hostages still held captive by Hamas are no longer alive, with Israel informing their families. It comes as the war in Gaza enters a 4th month, fighting continuing along Israel's northern border with Lebanon as well.
Donald Trump has suffered a significant legal blow today, with a US court unequivocally rejecting his claim that presidents should be immune from criminal prosecution. The 3 judges called his claim irrational and say his stance would collapse the US legal system.
Accused of plotting to overturn the 2020 election and defrauding the United States, Donald Trump claimed US presidents should have absolute protection from prosecution.
And I feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple.
But his argument was shut down by the District of Columbia Circuit Court of Appeals, a 57-page ruling with a decisive and unanimous opinion. Former President Trump has become Citizen Trump, with all of the defences of any other criminal defendant. They went on to describe his position as irrational, that his stance would collapse our system, placing the president beyond the reach of all 3 branches. Trump's campaign said they respectfully disagreed. Every future president who leaves office will be immediately indicted by the opposing party, while his Republican allies echoed his ongoing claims of a political witch hunt.
Extreme Democrats will stop at nothing in attempt to prevent President Donald Trump from returning to the White House.
And we call it lawfare, and I think there's no other way to describe it.
The most serious of his cases, if convicted, he would face significant jail time. Today's ruling brings Donald Trump one step closer to an unprecedented criminal trial before the November election.
If he is elected president, he could pardon himself, but his current legal options are rapidly diminishing. He has 6 days to file an appeal with the Supreme Court, with no guarantee they will take it up. In Washington, D.C., Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Are you on a mobile plan where you're paying too much for data?
When 9 News returns, we speak to a telco expert on how to manage your plan and how to find one better suited to your needs.
Plus, the world-first discovery by Australian scientists offering hope to millions with autoimmune diseases.
There's fresh hope tonight for those who suffer from an autoimmune disease. Researchers in Australia are leading a breakthrough discovery which could lead to a cure for lupus and help treat several other life-threatening illnesses.
Lupus doesn't discriminate. Singer Selena Gomez needed a kidney transplant in her battle, which affects more than 25,000 Australians. The immune system mistakenly attacks various parts of the body.
The joints, then the kidneys, then it's gone up to my heart and my brain.
There is no cure, although different medications can control it.
I think all the medications that I've been on have had really severe side effects.
Current treatments simply wipe out the entire immune system, or most of the immune system.
Now an Australian-led breakthrough.
This discovery is a world-first treatment to act as a software reset of the immune system.
It targets the underlying defect by inserting a protective molecule into the patient's dysfunctional immune cells called Tregs. The aim is to harvest the patient's own white blood cells for processing, modify them in the lab before reinfusing the supercharged cells. In test tubes and in mice with kidney inflammation, the effects were profound.
It stopped the progression of the lupus kidney disease without the need for toxic immunosuppressant drugs.
Whether this will be a cure, researchers won't know until clinical trials start in a few years. It could also be developed for other autoimmune diseases, such as type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis and multiple sclerosis. A discovery with a potential to help millions. Gabriella Rogers, 9 News.
Mobile data plans are getting bigger and bigger, but a warning tonight, that doesn't necessarily mean more value for money. Telco comparison site Whistleout says a new 650 gigabyte per month offer is now the biggest on the market.
Well, we worked out that if you watched Boy Swallows Universe or YouTube for 6 hours a day for a whole month, you still wouldn't use that amount of data.
And all telcos will be required to do more to help customers who are struggling to pay their bills under new industry rules that come into force next month.
Well, sports up next, and Rennie Sampal Pepper's relishing his new role.
He's come on in leaps and bounds, hasn't he, Kate? And it is really great to see. More on that story coming up next as Pal Pepper talks up his proudest moment. And could a new look be the key for Rory Sloane?
Incredibly fun, remarkably functional, and effortlessly stylish. Introducing the all-new Ford Puma. A compact SUV that really packs a punch. Looking good has never been this easy. Secure yours today. The all-new Ford Puma. Effortlessly stylish.
Hello again. Despite undergoing eye surgery for a second time, Adelaide veteran Rory Sloane intends to play on in a 16th season. But the 33-year-old admits he'll need to wear specialised goggles, similar to Collingwood's Mason Cox, for the remainder of his career.
A change of scenery for the Crows this morning. Richmond Oval hosting their midweek session with the Westlake surface getting a bit of attention. Rory Sloane certainly had his fair share for someone who's been laying pretty low.
Just some light walking and stretching and beach time for me.
Today marks a week since the 33-year-old's delicate eye surgery, and finally he can see some light at the end of the tunnel.
The plan is to build back up next week. It's only about, I think, 2 weeks from surgery that you can start building back up into some exercise and stuff.
A timeline for full contact training will come following advice from his surgeon, but as it stands, he's planning to play this season, albeit with a new accessory.
I'll probably look into getting some goggles, I think, at some point.
He's set to follow in the footsteps of Collingwood's Mason Cox, who has successfully worn custom specs since his own eye surgery a few years ago.
I don't know, that's probably the most responsible thing for me to do now is a couple of these injuries. I'll be looking at what prevention methods I can look at.
Josh Rochelle walked laps during today's session nursing a corky, and there's bound to be a few more sore bodies after another gruelling hit out in what's been labelled the toughest pre-season in recent years.
In terms of being sore and being stimulated out there and up in the gym and stuff, it's as hard, if not as hard as any year, for sure.
Ahead of his 6th campaign, Ned McHenry is setting himself for a breakout season after featuring in just 11 games last year, several of those as the sub.
Everyone's got their goals to play AFL. No one wants to play twos as an AFL listed player, so that's the expectation. I want to put myself in a position to play AFL footy and help us win.
McHenry and his teammates will get their first real chance to stake their claim for round 1 selection in an intra-club match in Port Lincoln next Friday. Corey Norris, 9 News.
Well, Power star Sam Powell-Pepper has called it his proudest moment, revealing a promotion into the club's leadership group was something he never thought possible. He's determined to keep repaying the faith after completing a transformation from bad boy to spiritual leader.
Leading the way at pre-season, but any official leadership role was something Sam Powell-Pepper never saw coming.
I couldn't be prouder of myself, you know, like I never growing up, you know, never really thought this could be an option.
Already considered a spiritual leader, he's now relishing the more formal recognition.
I just go about my business the way I do every single game, you know, I do 110%. They sometimes have to tell me to come back to 90%. You know, I only know one way, and that's just to lead by example.
The new role only made official after an anxiety-inducing visit into Ken Hinkley's office.
I got pulled aside before training and I got asked to come up to the office, so I was a bit nervous there. They pretty much said, yeah, part of the leadership group, and yeah, I couldn't really hold my excitement and, you know, a big smile and very grateful as well.
The 26-year-old's journey coming full circle, just 3 years after a string of off-field incidents led Chris Davies to offer this ultimatum.
It's very hard for players of any sport to have a good solid career on the field if they aren't taking care of themselves off it.
It was the reality check he needed, with a renewed focus on football and family, helping him become the best version of himself.
I've always wanted to be that role model and that good person I always want to be, and the best player I can be as well. But, you know, people and myself, we have those ups and downs in life, and it's just about the way you come back from it.
The same could be said of the Power after that straight sets finals exit. Powell-Pepper confident he can help his side reach the summit.
I haven't tried to be anyone else but myself, and I think they value that.
Will Crouch, 9 News.
Still on football, Carlton superstar Charlie Curnow has also taken on a bigger role, named as one of 3 vice-captains to support skipper Patrick Cripps. The back-to-back Coleman medalist hopes to bring his own flair to the leadership group.
I think I like to, you know, maybe bring a bit of energy to the group, and I like to display that with my football and also off-field inside the football club, and just enjoy spending time with my teammates.
The Blues are hoping to go one step further in 2024 after being knocked out in the prelim last season. Let's switch codes. The Adelaide 36ers' last-ditch bid to make finals continues on Friday night when they take on the Bullets in Brisbane. A late-season surge has the Sixers within touching distance. Despite sitting 9th, they're just 1 win behind the 4th-ranked Illawarra.
There's no real pleasure in missing out on playoffs. You want to play at that time of the year. It's no fun sitting and watching everyone else. So for me and the group, we just got to find a way to get in there, and if we can get in there, how can we keep winning games?
The 36ers host New Zealand the following Sunday in the last game of the regular season. With an injured Sam Kerr unavailable, Matilda's coach Tony Gustafsson has produced a selection shock ahead of this month's Olympic qualifier. That's against Uzbekistan at Marvel Stadium. Coming into the squad, 35-year-old striker Michelle Heyman.
I feel like a kid again, and I just can't wait to be back with the team to help, you know, give a little bit of me to show them that I've still got this.
Yeah, love the confidence. Heyman hasn't played for the Matildas in 6 years. Well, our Olympic team has its newest member, Campbell Harrison, who will represent Australia in sport climbing. Following its debut in Tokyo, the discipline has exploded in popularity, and the Aussie contingent has high hopes ahead of Paris.
He's been dubbed Australia's Spider-Man, and for Campbell Harrison, his happy place is between a rock and a hard place.
How long can you do this for?
Oh, this one, maybe not forever.
The 26-year-old becomes the 5th Australian athlete to get their hands on a ticket to Paris.
I have not raced for 8 years and I still get sweaty palms thinking about how close the games are.
4 years ago, COVID border closures hampered Campbell's qualifying attempts for Tokyo. To finally realise his Olympic dream was overwhelming.
Look what it means to him.
Leading into that final climb, there was this huge sense of pressure that was weighing on me. It's not often you sit in front of a crowd of a few hundred people and sit on the ground and cry, you know.
The sport, one of 4 that made its debut in Tokyo, is physically and mentally complex, and problem solving is crucial.
The time you're allotted to climb the boulder is also the time you've been allotted to assess the boulder. So often the buzzer will go off, you'll run out to the field of play and you'll be seeing these boulders for the very first time.
For Campbell, 8 years of professional climbing has led to this proud moment in green and gold. With him every step, parents Yvette and Russell, who had their hands full. Campbell is one of 4 kids.
He climbed around the guttering of the house, he climbed around the walls, he'd sit in the corner of the walls like a spider.
And while it may be a new Olympic sport,
I always knew, I just thought he'll go to the Olympics one day, no doubt.
Mum's know best.
Mum's always know best.
170 days and counting. Alicia Muelling, 9 News.
Not for the faint-hearted, that one. Climbing like a spider, that's what you need to do. I love it.
Incredible story. Thanks so much, Freddie. Well, checking finance at Australia's second largest bank will welcome a new CEO within weeks. Incoming boss Andrew Irvine takes over from Ross McEwen. Here's finance editor Chris Kohler.
Jobs in corporate Australia don't come much bigger than CEO of one of the big banks. And on April 2, Ross McEwen will leave the club and Andrew Irvine will join it, becoming the new boss of NAB. That top job is worth about $3.8 million a year. And the feeling is that Ross McEwen did his best to earn it. As he leaves, the bank is worth about $25 billion more than when he took over. So pretty big shoes to fill.
We've had a good run under Ross over the last 3 or 4 years, becoming a better bank. And my job, working with the team, is to continue to be there for our customers, helping those who might be struggling in these more difficult economic times.
And investors weren't that thrilled with the news. NAB shares slipped while the rest of the market rose. Elsewhere, Santos slumped after merger talks with Woodside ended, and the Aussie dollar is buying 65 US cents and close to 61 euro cents.
Warming up towards the weekend, Jessica has the weather right after the break.
First, though, a look at tomorrow's speed cameras.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Loz tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
Switch on a Daikin Alira X split system with advanced streamer technology to remove more than 99% of harmful indoor air pollutants and surround yourself with cleaner air this summer. Daikin, perfecting the air.
Well, a few of the local birds around Thornton Park have shown up for a cameo in our weather report tonight. Animals and humans out alike, enjoying the sunshine today. We had 26 degrees for our top. Right now it is around 22 degrees and feeling very lovely here by the water. Across the suburbs we saw heaps of sunshine around today. It was pretty windy by the coast. It has tended to be windy off the waters each day this week. We saw 26 degrees at Glenelg and at Noarlunga. Through our north, plenty of sun but nothing too extreme. That's good to see. Temperatures maxing out at 34 degrees at Cooper Pedy and 24 at Ceduna. Through the south, anywhere by the coast was likely cooler, but further inland a little bit warmer with 30 degrees at Renmark. On the charts, well, who is responsible for this long run of sunny, dry weather? Well, it's the high pressure system floating in the bight there and gradually warming things up for us over the next few days. Interstate tomorrow, Melbourne's in for a pretty easy day with a mostly sunny 24. Sydney could be a little cloudier with 25 and Brisbane a shower or two with 31. Back to SA and it is sunny skies stretching out from top to bottom tomorrow. Warm up north, 35 degrees for Cooper Pedy and Roxby Downs and becoming windy at Port Augusta again with 33 the top there. So we're drifting back towards the 20s for most of our south. We've got Murray Bridge headed for 28 and Kingscote 25, although Keith could make 30 and Renmark likely in the 30s again too. It is still windy on the water, especially around the Spencer Gulf and the Gulf St Vincent tomorrow with a marine wind warning in place there. while on metro waters, winds tending southeasterly and reaching up to 25 knots north of St Kilda at night time. Around the Adelaide suburbs tomorrow, we roll out another round of those blue skies, warming up to 30 degrees at Elizabeth, 28 at Glenelg and Noarlunga, and 27 for Mount Barker. In the city, we're going for that top of 29 degrees. We should see an overnight low tonight of around 14 degrees. We're looking at dry skies, and that is the theme for basically the whole 7-day forecast. We have 29 degrees again on Friday, warming to 31 on Saturday and 33 on Sunday, up to 36 to kick off next week, but then cooling back down again quite quickly.
A very pleasant run into the weekend. Thanks so much, Jessica. That's the Midweek Bulletin here on 9. Glad you could join us.
Stay watching now for a current affair with more updates to follow. Enjoy your evening.
Good night.